The Supreme Court has reserved judgment on the 4 different appeals relating to the ongoing political saga in Rivers State. This is also on the same day that the Apex Court dismissed an appeal by the Rivers State Governor, Siminalayi Fubara, against the judgment of the appeal court which declared the 2024 budget illegal on account of it being presented to a 4-member state House of Assembly. Arise correspondent Godfrey Eshemoge has details.
For months, the power play in the Rivers State polity has unraveled, culminating in several litigations. At this stage, it has reached the Supreme Court. 4 appeals have been merged into one to make it faster to reach a decision. The Justice Uwani Abba-Aji-led 5-member Supreme Court panel, upon hearing the submission of counsel of all parties in the matter, adjourned till a date to be communicated to all parties concerned. The main parties are primarily the Rivers State Governor Sim Fubara and the Martins Amawule-led 27-member group, said to be loyalists of the former governor, Nyesom Wike. The issue in contention that the Apex Court is meant to give closure include that on the move to stop federal allocation to the state, that to stop the scheduled local government election, and underlying this is on whether to declare the seat of the 27 members of the State Assembly vacant. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has dismissed the appeal of Sim Fubara, which is challenging the Court of Appeal decision that declared the 2024 budget of the state illegal because it was presented to 4 members of the State Assembly instead of 31. Yusuf Ali, counsel for Fubara, withdrew the appeal as it outlived its usefulness on December 31st. It was upon his withdrawal that the appeal was dismissed. The court went further to award 2 million naira each in favor of the Rivers State Assembly and Martins Amawule against Fubara.
The appeal by the governor of Rivers State was dismissed by the Supreme Court this morning following the notice of withdrawal by the governor of the appeal he filed. Consequently, the decisions of the Court of Appeal and that of the Federal High Court, presided over by Honorable Justice Somotosho J, affirming that the Rivers State House of Assembly, led by Honorable Martin Amewule, and the other 26 members of the House of Assembly are the authentic members.
The budget has since expired. We're now talking of 2025 budget. But that appeal had to do with 2024 budget. Secondly, with respect to the defection, the legislators, it was after the judgment of the High Court, Judge Somotosho, and the Court of Appeal, that they defected. So the question of their defection is now pending before the Federal Court in Port Harcourt. So, and that is why we withdrew the appeal on the ground that it has been overtaken by events. All right? So it was our own, we withdrew the appeal, contrary to the misinformation that has been created in the minds of Nigerians.
The Supreme Court will decide on the consolidated Rivers cases on a date to be communicated soon. Godfrey Eshemoge, Arise News.
Meanwhile, the Rivers State government says its case challenging the leadership and membership of the State House of Assembly, who allegedly defected, is still before the Supreme Court. Edison Inibehe, Chief of Staff to Governor Sim Fubara, says Monday's Supreme Court decision is only related to the appeal court judgment that Governor Fubara should represent the 2024 budget before the Amewule-led assembly, which has now been overtaken by events since the budget year has expired. Similarly, in a statement, the Rivers State Commissioner for Information, Joe Johnson, explained that the appeal is of no use any longer. He's advising members of the public to ignore what he calls the outdated political propaganda by some politicians. Joining us now on the show to review the decision of the Supreme Court is Inibehe Effiong, a lawyer. Good morning, Inibehe. Great to have you on the show.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, let's go straight in. And that is just an assessment of the Supreme Court judgment. Different sides of the stories of the divide have come out with different interpretations. But what is substantial here is that they're saying that, oh, it's not even relevant anyway because the year under consideration, 2024 budget has expired, and so we should be looking forward. But we have had this long conversation around the legitimacy of the River State House of Assembly with only 4 members, the presentation of the budget to these 4 members, who really are members of the House of Assembly. So it'd be great for you to just analyze all of this as you open up today's conversation.
Thank you. So let me start by saying that what transpired at the Supreme Court yesterday was essentially that the governor of Rivers State, through his counsel, had filed a notice of discontinuance pursuant to Order 11 Rules 14 of the Supreme Court Rules 2024 to have the appeal on the constitutionality of the 2024 budget of Rivers State withdrawn. They filed a notice to withdraw that appeal because both the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal in their judgment had ruled against the passage of the budget by the Ogojumbo faction, in quote, of the House of Assembly. Now, their basis for doing so is that the appeal had become spent. The subject matter for adjudication has become academic because the fiscal year in relation to the budget in Rivers State has elapsed. And therefore, what they are now dealing with is 2025 budget. And I think that is permissible. Because assuming the Supreme Court had given a decision, what would effect, what impact, of what value would that judgment or decision have had on the question of the legality of the budget? So I don't think they can be faulted on that. Now, going further, I have followed the Rivers Conundrum from inception. As I choose to characterize it, we are dealing with an interplay of law and politics. Law and politics in the sense that while the legal niceties, while the lawyers are arguing, making submissions, filing cases, they are moving from one court to the other based on the question of law that has arisen, or the questions of law. There is also the underlying factor, which is politics. This is a battle between the Wike and Fubara. But in the midst of that battle, of course, the courts also have the responsibility to clarify what the law is. Who is the Speaker of the House of Assembly? Who are the members of the Rivers State House of Assembly? Who have power to make law for the people of Rivers State? These are some of the questions that have been submitted to the court for adjudication. But just to be clear, the discontinuance or the dismissal of the appeal, because at the level of the Supreme Court, when you file a notice of to discontinue an appeal, particularly when issues have been joined, when parties have filed and exchanged briefs of argument, the only natural consequence is that the appeal will be dismissed. That does not mean that the court has made a determination on the question. Regarding the imposition of 2 million fine, it is expected because the other side had spent money to file processes, to hire counsel. That is what the cost of 2 million entails. It has nothing to do with the merit or the substance of the appeal that was before the Supreme Court. Now, of course, in the fullness of time, we will have a closure. The people of Rivers State will be able to say where exactly all this is headed to. And I'm hoping that the Supreme Court will look at the matter and come to a decision. Yeah. Let me also clarify that as at the time the appeal withdrawn and dismissed yesterday, the subject of that appeal arose. The issue of defection had not arisen. That point must be made clearly. As at the time that the governor bypassed the 27 member led by Emewule, yes. As at the time he bypassed them and presented the budgets to the Jumbo faction, they had not defected. There were plans in quotes allegedly to have the governor impeached. You recall the demolition of part of the House of Assembly in the name of renovation, yes. And then that led to the members defecting. So the question of defection arose after the issue of the budget. And that question of defection is still a subject of adjudication. Yes. Because, Nigerians saw it. We all saw the videos where people announced their defection, where people, so those are issues that the court will have to determine. Because the precedents have been clear. From 2007, the case of Effiong and Dariye, AGF and Abubakar, reaffirmed in 2014 in Abegunde and Ondo State House of Assembly that the issue of defection is automatic. Once you defect, the operation of law by virtue of section 109, subsection 1, paragraph G, is that you lose your seat automatically. So this question of defection will ultimately be the determinative point on the entire Rivers crisis. I don't think there's a political solution to this. The president attempted that and fell, and it was destined to fail. You cannot be mediating, and you are subjecting a governor to conditions that violate the Constitution. You are telling a governor you cannot sack certain commissioners. You are telling a governor you have to subject certain gubernatorial decisions to the whims and approval of a third party. So the president, in subjecting Fubara to those conditions, knew that he was sending him to the jungle, and he knew that these conditions were never going to be met. And the governor on his own claimed he had tried to meet some of those conditions and fell. So ultimately the courts will have to resolve this matter. And I am believing and I'm hoping that in doing so, the court will look at the matter objectively, the court will look at the matter in a way that everybody will see that justice has been done.
You might want to have a stop at the question.
No, I was just going to pick up on what you said and how you said you don't feel as though this is a situation that can be resolved politically. Right? That's what you just said. And that instead that you have all faith in the courts. Now, being that Sim Fubara, in the aftermath of what we saw in court yesterday, has yet to release any statement, I don't want to put it to you, because I know that you're not a mind reader, you can't tell the fortune. But what do you think his positioning will be? As you said, this is a situation where his wings have not only been clipped, but he feels as though he's been intentionally led down a road of just destruction, really. And he doesn't really have you'd imagine he doesn't really have the time or the space to really focus on the business of being a governor because he has so much to handle here. So what do you think that his position is right now in the aftermath of this withdrawal from the courts?
I think Fubara clearly knows that this is the fight of survival. He knows that there is no alternative to what is going on. And I restate my position that I don't see a political solution to what is going on. Now, I understand the Rivers State government had made a statement to clarify that some of the points I've earlier made, that the withdrawal of the appeal and the dismissal of SEM had nothing to do with the question of defection. I don't expect the governor to do anything beyond what is going on. Because at the end of the day, in the final analysis, this is a fight between Wike and Fubara. Why this is such an embarrassment for me as a Nigerian, why this is particularly painful to some of us that have interest in the development of this country, is that in the midst of this crisis, we are having two political gladiators. When the people of Rivers State, what is basically of interest to them is provision of infrastructure, education, health, and basic issues of governance. But we are now being distracted because some lawmakers feel that their loyalty lies with their godfather, Effiong Wike. Why should lawmakers in Nigeria, Houses of Assembly, feel beholden to governors? So let us not discuss this matter in isolation. The same thing is playing out in Lagos State. The same thing is playing out in Zamfara. And I have said it publicly. Governors in Nigeria are more dictatorial than the president. Governors in Nigeria are more corrupt than presidents. The only reason why we always speak about Abuja is that at that level there is more power and there is more resources. But if you look at it in comparative terms, there is no House of Assembly in Nigeria today, I challenge you, that can hold a governor accountable. Not one. At the federal level, you can even have some lawmakers pretend to be in opposition. You can have someone raise a motion pretending to be scrutinizing a president. You don't have that at the state level.
As we wrap up, cases 1174, 1175, 1176, 1177 are there at the Supreme Court. They've reserved it for judgment.
Yes.
What should the Rivers people be thinking now, win or lose? Because those are the determinant cases at the Supreme Court now.
I think we are all hoping that...
And they are saying you have been economical with the truth. That also read Omotosho's judgment, put it in a conversation. That's what they said.
Of course, I'm familiar with Honorable Justice Omotosho's judgment, which is judgment of the Federal High Court. What the learned judge pronounced was that the governor was wrong to have presented the budget to an assembly of 4 or 5 members. That was the basis of the judgment. That was the basis of the judgment, and the issue of the redeployment of the clerk of the house. I'm aware of all that. The point I'm making is that, to the best of my knowledge, the question of defection was not determined in that judgment. I am not saying that the court was wrong in saying that Wike should not have presented the budget to 4 or 5 members. That is the judgment. It remains extant, because now that the appeal has been dismissed, that judgment remains valid to the point that there's a pronouncement that the governor shouldn't have gone through the budgetary process the way he did. But regarding the question of defection, it is a question that strikes at the heart of the Nigerian judiciary. Did these individuals defect? Did we see their announcement of their defection? Did they depose to an affidavit affirming their defection? And having done that, can we only say that they are still members of the House of Assembly? I cannot determine that. The court will have to determine that. Regarding the other matters that are pending before the Supreme Court, my expectation and wish for the people of Rivers State is that in the final analysis, that this matter will be resolved in a way that the people will begin to see governance. Because this is all distraction. This is all distraction. While we are having all these debates, there are real governance issues that need to be attended to in Rivers State. There are real governance issues that the Minister of the FCT should be attending to, should be concerned about. Why is he, he spent 8 years for crying out loud. Nobody could talk to him. Nobody could oppose him. He left. He brought in Fubara, and now Fubara comes and he's saying he wants to have his own way, and you are saying you want.
A lot of people will challenge you by saying now you're being political. It looks as though
no, but I have said that there is a law, there is the politics. Because it is the politics that have given rise to these litigations. Assuming that these lawmakers were following Fubara, nobody will be in court today.
Okay.
Yes.
But the case is not the same because Wiki also holds a stake in all of this. I think we need to wrap up.
Yeah, we need to wrap up now. Thank you so much for your time. Obviously, it's still an ongoing case. There's still conversations around this, and there's still matters in court as we speak. But we'll continue to watch this, and hopefully, like you've mentioned, the Rivers people would be the best served in all of this. At the end of the day, they deserve good governance. And hopefully all these distractions would not be deterrent to that. Thank you so much.